Today, I'm going to be making a tier list video of all the dungeon games that I've played in the past month or so. This includes most of the popular ones, but also a few that I've played that aren't so popular known. This is just my opinion. You're free to disagree, tell me why I'm stupid and wrong, or comment a game that I might have missed, because I'm sure there is a few that I did. And yeah. With the E tier, and this tier I reserved more for abandoned games, because where some of them might be actually okay, like Adventure Tale, they're abandoned, and for that I put them in E. But if you don't really care about that, some of them might still be worth taking a look at. But for the E's, it's going to be Adventure Tale, Adventure Up, Blade Quest. Oh, I think I forgot one. Oh, Wanderlands, but I think I forgot to put it in here. 1 second. Okay, I just grabbed a random PNG of it. You can't see the name, but that's Wanderlands. These four are going to be in E tier. Now, I usually put it from like best on the left to worst on the right. So just keep that in mind. If it's to the left, I think it's better. Which one should I start with? I think I'm going to start with Fabled, actually, because Fabled just got an update, and I've been playing that. So it's kind of like fresh in my mind. Like I was just playing that right before I started making this, actually. My favorite part about Fabled is each dungeon has so much effort and is so good. Like they're all so high quality, honestly, and straight from like level 1 as well. Like right when I started playing Fabled, it is so much fun, and it's one of the only ones that I don't mind going back to level 1 and grinding up, because it is just so much fun, and the boss mechanics are so good, and each dungeon just has such a high quality to it. Now, it's also not pay to win. It's visually very appealing. The game looks nice, and like I said, it's just fun to level up. For that, I think I'm putting it in B. Maybe now you might think, like, after I raved so much about it, why isn't it an A and not, or why is it an A? Why is it not an A and in B? Because it does kind of, it's not super original. It is very similar to another dungeon game on this list, so it's got to be in B just because of that. But if that other dungeon game didn't exist, it'd definitely be A. Next, I'm going to do Anime Dungeon Fighters. That's this one right here. I couldn't find a thing with its name or whatever on it, but this one's Anime Dungeon Fighters. I think my biggest complaint with this one, even though it is the most popular right now because it did just come out, and I will admit I'm not maxed on this, so my opinion could change. I don't see it changing, because at the end of the day, my complaints about this game are more just things that aren't really going to change as I get higher in the level. And my biggest complaint is the auto fight and the AFK. Like, it just feels like I spend more time auto fighting and AFKing in this game than I do actually playing the game. So I could never put it that high up, really, just off of that. Now, there is a lot of variety in how you can play this game, so I don't want to like trash on it too much. There's a lot of abilities. There's like fruits, there's like guns, swords, melees you can use, there's like pets you can have, but none of it seems all that high quality. It all just feels bad. Now, the solo leveling kind of thing in here is kind of fun, the whole like going up progressively the waves or whatever, but again, the game is just really easy. There's not a lot of enemy mechanics that are hard or interesting. I think this game is, I'm torn, because I feel like D's unfair, but I feel like C's too high. I think C. I think I'm going to be a little generous in this game because I haven't quite gotten all the way through it, and my opinion could change, so I'm going to put it in C for now. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, next is Treasure Quest. Treasure Quest has like low quality dungeons, and there's nothing really special or unique in this game. Like, it's very bland, kind of boring. I think its saving grace is there is a lot of content in the game. There are some aspects of the game that might keep people coming back, but for me, it's just boring. I don't know how to put, it's not E or anything like that. I think it's D. I think it's high D. Maybe it's just not for me, this one. I think this is another one with Anime Dungeon Fighters where it feels like C's too fair, but D's too not fair. But I think it's on the higher end of D. Anime Dungeon Fighters like on the lower end of C. Yeah, that's what I think it is. Okay, I haven't done any ones that I think I'm putting in A, so I'm gonna do World Zero. World Zero is gonna be our first A, and honestly, I can't say enough good things about this game. It's got an open world and dungeon kind of blend, so there's like open world stuff to do, but also there's the dungeon part of the game, which is, in my opinion, the main part of the game that everybody is coming here for. It also has some PvP, where the PvP is not that good. It at least exists, so that's cool as well. It's not anything to write home about. There's lots of content. There's a ton of dungeons. I don't have the exact number on my head, but there's a ton of dungeons. a ton of like quests, a ton of worlds as well, because there's like a few dungeons on each world. I think like 2 on each world. Because there's so much, it feels like you're constantly hitting new things. So what I mean by that is like when you're leveling up, you're constantly hitting new dungeons and new dungeons. You know, a lot of times in dungeon games, you have to do 14 dungeons and then you move on to the next dungeon, and you have to do 20 dungeons and then you move on to the next dungeon. Now you have to do like 30 dungeons. You know, you're just like constantly running the same thing over and over and over again to just get to the next thing. You have to then run over and over and over again. World Zero, it never really felt like that to me. It felt like I was hitting new stuff fairly quickly. And you might think like the trade-off is like the dungeons are super low quality, and where I admit they're not like Fabled or Dungeon Quest where like the dungeons are really solid, like each individual dungeon is really good. There's so many of them and they are good enough that I think it makes up for it. And the end game is really solid as well. I like the end game here. I also like that there's a ton of classes and different stuff to do. It kind of gives you a reason to prestige. It does have some pay to win here, which hurts a little bit in my opinion, but I don't think you need it. Honestly, it's not like another game on here that if you're not paying to win, it feels like you're just fighting a losing fight. In this, there's some pay to win, but it's not terrible. Next, I'm going to do, well, I mean, just speaking of it, I'm going to do Animate Dimensions. Animate Dimensions is the one I was talking about being super pay to win. It's kind of egregious. Like, it is crazy how pay to win this game is. Like, it really does feel like if you're not swiping your credit card, you're not playing, okay? If you want to get the newest characters when they come out, and if you don't want to turn your PC into like just mining the currency of the game, the raid coins for 16 hours a day to get the new character, you're just going to have to end up paying for it, which I kind of hate. But it does have its pluses as well. I'm not going to act like it's just bad. It is visually appealing. So the game looks good. The bosses do have mechanics. Each dungeon does have a couple bosses inside of them as well. So you're going to have some opportunities to see some like cool characters because you're probably coming to this game for the anime stuff. And there's a lot of that. It's literally everywhere. It's in the name of the game. But because it is like that, it kind of uses the IPs of the animes to carry the game. And if you don't like anime, this game is probably like an E. If you don't like anime, this game is an E. But if you do like anime, I think you could argue this game up to like a C. Maybe. I think it's better than Treasure Quest. I would say it's C. I think it's C, probably even a little above Anime Dungeon Fighters, just because it does not have an auto fight mechanic. Honestly, that I hate that so much. But like I said, if you like anime and using the characters, and it is cool, like using Sukuna and hitting the Malevolent Shrine, that's cool. But that kind of wears off. And the end game is awful. In my opinion, I hate it so much because it's not even pretending to be a challenge. It's just who can get the most damage. And where that's like an okay, like that's for some people, it feels all the worse when whoever pays more is going to get the most damage. That's what makes it even worse. But even if that wasn't a thing, hitting at a boss for 10 minutes to do the most damage just is not fun. Might be for some people, but it's not for me. And this tier list is obviously my personal opinion. So, all right, I'm gonna do Dungeon Quest next. This one was probably a giveaway, but because Fable was in B, it was pretty obvious Dungeon Quest was gonna go in A. I probably should have done Dungeon Quest before I did Fable because I feel like that's a giveaway. But Dungeon Quest is the standard. I really don't know what else to say about it because it feels like everybody has played the game and played it a lot. It's not pay to win. I think, in my opinion, it gets better the later you go on. The game is active and consistent. Now, it's not like active as in like it's averaging like 30,000 players or whatever, but it's active as in like it's got like a very dedicated fan base that has been around for what feels like forever now. And even some of its bad aspects, in my opinion, like the earlier dungeons, it's going back and fixing those. And it's obviously inspired so many other games to do what it did. So for that, I think it's an A. I personally prefer World Zero a little more than I do Dungeon Quest. So I have World Zero above Dungeon Quest. But if you think I'm wrong for that, or you think Dungeon Quest is better than World Zero, that's perfectly fine. I wouldn't argue with it. I wouldn't argue with that at all. Especially since it feels like Dungeon Quest literally just defines the genre on Roblox. Next is Zombie Hunters. Zombie Hunters, it doesn't have many dungeons in it. It's got like 4 or 5. Zombie Hunters kind of copies Elemental Dungeons very hard. It has guns, which is pretty cool. I like that, and it's the only one on here that like features guns that is like as its like main thing. Anime Dungeon Fighters has guns, but it's not its main thing. Where Zombie Hunters' whole like thing is like a dungeon game with guns, which was enough of a reason for me to max out on it. It's probably one of the worst ones that I've maxed out on, but I did it. And really the problem with it is it's just a copy. Like it copies Elemental Dungeons down to the starting area. Some of the spots in the dungeons are exactly the same. Some of the abilities look really similar. It just kind of gives you a gun instead of Elemental Dungeons giving you like a sword. So, I mean, it's kind of like a Dungeon Quest to Fable type of thing, except for a lot more egregious. Like if Fable literally just started copying the dungeons from Dungeon Quest type of thing, that would be what it would be like. And I think in that situation, people would push Fable down even farther because at that point you're just copying it. And so for that reason, Zombie Hunters has to be a D, and it's probably below Treasure Quest as well, despite how much I hate Treasure Quest. And despite the fact that I maxed on Zombie Hunters, I'm still putting it below because it just copies. I mean, and I know so many games do that, but it's so egregious. It's like one for one. It's like they weren't even trying to hide it. They weren't even trying to pretend. They were just like, yeah, this is ED with guns. And speaking of ED, that's the last one. And if you look anywhere on my page, you might think I'm putting this thing straight into A. The best game ever. I've made a million videos on it, but no, actually, I think I'm putting it in B. Not only am I putting it in B, I think I'm putting it slightly below Fable. It could be an A if the devs ever updated the game, but they don't. It just lacks. That's its biggest problem. It lacks updates. It doesn't. It's not very consistent. Whereas like 3 months ago, it was getting consistent updates. It had an event that was going on that was super fun. It was getting new abilities, cool stuff. But they've kind of lacked on it despite the game was averaging a lot of people. It is still fun though. Like its biggest problem is just the lack of updates. Some other games could lack updates for a little bit, but they have so much content in the game that it's fine. Elemental Dungeons, it doesn't have that luxury because it is so new. It doesn't have that many dungeons. So if they stop updating it, people are just going to stop playing because there's not enough content there right now. Now, why it's in B after I just shit on it? It's in B because the abilities are cool. Like pretty much all the abilities are cool. Even the rare ones still are kind of like cool looking and kind of fun to use sometimes. It looks very nice, so the game is visually appealing, and that goes back to the abilities as well. Like everything just kind of looks nice in the game as well. It's not pay to win really at all. It has some of the basic pay to win things, mechanics in it, like most of these games do, like the double drop loots and the VIP, but nothing like egregious. Like it's not anime dimensions or whatever. And the player mechanics feel nice and loose. It's the only game on here where like you feel loose, like Blox Fruits type of mechanics, if that makes any sense, where all the other games feel like grounded. This one doesn't. So that's also another reason why I have it up in B, because it does feel like a breath of fresh air playing Elemental Dungeons when you've played all the other ones for so long. And that's my tier list for the moment. I'm going to update it as more come out. Like there's one that I'm excited for called Orbital Odyssey and Arcane Conquest. I'm excited for those, and I'll have to update this. I'll probably update this periodically with like new games and if like they've moved or whatever. But for now, this is my personal ranking of all the dungeon games that I've played recently on Roblox. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you.